We're on the streets of Detroit, Michigan. This is Motown, USA, 9 corners, just under 1.7 miles. It's a pretty traditional road circuit with a lot of straights and a lot of 90-degree turns here. And in the Ford Racing Global Broadcast Centre, it's John Hindhaugh and Ryan Marine. Beautiful weather as the Michelin tyres chirrup on the split pit lane as the cars head out to their warm-up laps. 21 cars, 10 in GTD Pro and 11 in the prototype GTP category. Hello everybody, good to have your company. Track temperature up at 100 Fahrenheit, 70 Fahrenheit in the air. That's 21 Celsius in the air and 38 on the track. And what a fabulous opportunity we have for you this Saturday night to bring you some quick fire endurance racing. How can 100 minutes be endurance racing? There's still strategy to play out. Ryan Marine is with me, John Hindhaugh, in the Ford Racing Global Broadcast Centre. Our Porsche keys to the race, Ryan, stay out of the walls, and then it comes down to track position and tyres. The Michelin tyres will easily do 100 minutes here. The question will be, when you change your driver, do you change your tyres? And I haven't got an answer to that right now.
None of us do, and that's what's going to make this fun today. Nobody knows exactly what to expect. One other thing to keep in mind, these strategists have massive windows to play with because these are 2 all-pro classes. There is only a 5-minute minimum drive time, so that means once we're 5 minutes into the race, the teams can pretty much have at it at that point strategically with their driver changes.
Just as we get things going here, want to mention, we mentioned this yesterday, but we're on the live feed today, and a big shout out to our pit notes team at the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship. Justin Triggers in particular is working on his dad's laptop at the moment. Sadly, his dad died a week or so ago, and frankly he was a great friend to all of us over the last 20 plus years. Lee is missed by me, by Eve, by everybody on the IMSA radio side of things and the American Le Mans Series radio web before that, because he spans, like we do, the American sports car renaissance and journey that started with Dr. Don Paynos and has been taken on by the Daytona organisation. What he brought was the inside information, he and his team, from the pit lane that sometimes we couldn't get the information for. He is much missed. I have no idea what Justin is going through at the moment, but he's here. He's doing what his dad would have expected him to do. And Justin, you, the family, you are all in our thoughts, and your dad is an absolute stalwart of this racing, and we miss him, not as much as you will, but we'll miss him every single race. And the fact that you're working on his laptop today is a lovely tribute to Lee Triggers, part of the Pit Notes team, the man who started the Pit Notes team for IMSA Radio, and before that the American Le Mans Series radio web back in the days. We race today, we talk about this race with a heavy heart, but with the hope that we will have a race that will honour Lee. He would have loved this. Beautiful blue skies, the opportunity for 21 cars to go racing. He'd have been in my ear going, this is going to be a cracker. He'd have been typing on our chat that we always had together, saying keep an eye on this at the start, and he's absolutely right. It's Cadillac that lock out the front row with the 31 Whelen and the Wayne Taylor number 40 in GTD Pro. Corvette Racing lock out the front row. How appropriate that we have 2 of the GM brands locking it out under what used to be their corporate headquarters. They've moved out to the Renaissance Centre now. We've got 1 hour and 40 minutes already running because we've gone across the finish line. But here's the start line. Now we race. The green flag is in the air, and Earl Bamber in the red-fronted Whelen Cadillac gets the jump. That's exactly what he needed to do to head down to what is the first competitive corner, turn 3 actually, the hairpin. And as he turns sharp right now down onto Bates Street, he's got the jump away. Side by side further back with the 2 BMWs into Nissan battles right down the inside for the fantastic start for Philippe Albuquerque for Cadillac Wind Taylor Racing. He's pulled up a couple of positions. The GTs have followed through with the 2 Corvettes, just about holding on to their leads. I think that the Lexus has got right in amongst them, might have even got between them, but that's a pretty clean start. Although there's a problem. Here's a problem for an Acura engine. Ryan Marine, there's smoke coming out of the back. No, it's not the engine. It's Michelin tyre smoke that's coming off the back of the number 60.
Yeah, there's some damage to the back of that car. Tom Blomqvist got the stop, just a little bit of body rub on that tire, which is sending up a huge plume of smoke right into the face of Tymon Vanderhelm, who's been able to get around Ross Gunn. That's at the back of the GTP field. Meanwhile, the teammate to Nick Yellowly in the wounded Acura, or excuse me, the teammate to Tom Blomqvist, who's in the wounded car, Nick Yellowly, got a great start. He grabbed second place from Louis Delatraz in the opening run down to turn 3.
Early doors, the Porsches having to come through the field for Porsche Penske Motorsport. Kevin Estre and Philippe Nasser both lost laps after causing red flags in practice and or qualifying. And they are working their way through. They've been good on the streets so far and have an excellent record on the streets of Long Beach, which is the closest race to what we have here. 7th and 8th for those 2 cars at the moment. Earl Bamber goes through and leads. It's been a busy few weeks for Cadillac. They were at Silverstone earlier on this week, shaking down the cars. Oh, damn it, there's debris on the front straight now. I say the front straight, I mean Jefferson Avenue, between 2 and 3. That's where we started, but that's not where the finish line is. The finish line is on Franklin, beside the pit lane. That's a substantial piece of carbon fiber, Ryan.
And that is, and Race Control will be taking a close look at that. They've also noted the damage. Oh, full course yellow is out. I presume that's for that debris, but also getting word to mechanical black flag for the 60 of Blomqvist. That's presumably for the damage that's been causing all that smoke. So they'll need to come to the pits as soon as they open up to try and address that damage. In fact, they come in right now.
Well, that's smart because they're not going to lose a lot of track position. Track position, tyres and walls are Porsche keys to the race. It was a really, really untidy start for the GTD pros, and indeed the Corvette number 4 went really wide in the hands of Tommy Milner and dropped a lot of positions. The number 3 of Alexander Sims held on the lead, but Ben Barnicat for Vassar Sullivan Racing in the Lexus and Frederick Vervish in the Ford Mustang slipped through. We've still got Blomqvist in the pit lane. That's not the easy fix I thought it was going to be, Ryan. I thought that would be back deck off, back deck on, and send him, and he's just gone out now.
Yeah, that's curious. I wonder what the extent of the damage was, because that did seem like it would have been as simple as replacing the damaged bodywork. But you know what? They were dropping to the back anyway, so you might as well take a good close look at it, make sure that the tire is okay before you do anything else and send that car back out. He's going to catch up to the back of the train. We'll have our class split, and he'll take his spot in the queue with the GTP cars coming to the restart. Of note, we are now past the 5-minute mark, which means the minimum drive time has elapsed. So this yellow comes at a very interesting point, and if a team would like to roll the dice strategically, do an early driver change, I would circle the 5 from JDC Miller as a possible suspect that we might see dive to the pit lane when it opens up, and there could be some others, but that opportunity is now available in both classes.
At IMSA Radio, if you want to get in touch with us, and Adam Prime's just done that. He's in Riyadh in Saudi Arabia after an 11-hour desert drive from Dubai. Perfect way to end the day. That's a long drive. I know exactly where you've come. Our Brembo brake facts for the Chevrolet Detroit Sports Car Classic. The difficulty rating is 4 out of 5. Toughest braking point is down to that hard left-hander at turn 3. There are 9 braking zones per lap. That is the nature of street circuit. 145 miles an hour is scrubbed off down to that hairpin at turn 3. That'll give you about 2.6 G deceleration. And how about 1472 Fahrenheit? Well, it's been warm here, and the track's warm. At the moment, it's, well, 100 Fahrenheit, 38 Celsius. But, ow, don't touch with fingers, I think, when we're talking about the discs on there. Hello to Thomas Rieker in Germany, to Carol Brink in California, and all the rest of you who are tuned in on this Saturday afternoon, evening. What have we got in the UK? Just after 9:15 in the UK, 10:15 in Europe, a little bit later on in the Middle East, which is where Adam is joining us from. I'm impressed with that 11-hour drive, Adam. I hope you took a couple of stops to do that. The Chevrolet safety car is out. It's a very special Corvette that is leading the field around. Let's see if anybody takes the opportunity to drop in as they turn towards pit lane. I've not seen anybody going in yet, Ryan. I think people are just hanging out at the moment, and Tom Blomqvist, of course, with the category split, will be back in 11th position ahead of the GTD Pros when we restart.
Well, remember, we're still within the first 30 minutes of the race, so we're still in a position where this will be a short yellow protocol within that 30 minutes at the beginning of the race. So nobody can come into the pits yet. They don't open the pits under the short yellow sequence. So we're going through the pack up and class split situation. They'll deal with that debris, and we'll get the race restarted. It should be on the restart when the pits open up that we might see the first cars making that dive into the pit lane.
Still waiting for race control to tell us that we are going to go back to green. Hello to Ryan, not you Ryan, another Ryan, being away with the family in Bridlington in the UK today. Looking forward to the race this evening, as it is in the UK. It was a Porsche that did damage to the Acura, and looks like it was the Porsche with the black stripes that did that, which I think would make that the number 7, if I remember from Andy Blackmore's spotter guide. Hello to Aaron, who is watching and listening as well. Sirius XM 206, as well as around the world on RS2, IMSA Radio, and of course, if you have a non-US IP, then you can watch on IMSA's YouTube. Looks like we're coming back to green flag. We are indeed. Exactly an hour and 30 minutes on the clock, and we are racing again. Earl Bamber gets a lovely drop on Nick Yellerly as they head back. It's side by side behind. It's the two Porsches from Porsche Penske Motorsport who are putting the elbows out and going by Philippe Albuquerque. Kevin Estre and Felipe Nasser go through and take positions there. Looks like the Porsches are on the comeback trail early.
Yeah, that's really impressive to see. We knew that they had pace. They just both had issues in qualifying that cost them a potential result. How about the BMWs on the march, though, now? Sheldon van der Linde muscling his way by Delatraz up to third.
Now the Porsches are fighting against themselves in the area where they came to grief, or at least they're just coming down through turns 4 and 5, actually, not quite. It was turn 1 where in qualifying it all went wrong for them. In the sunshine, 20 Celsius in the air is 68 Fahrenheit, big sideways. Now, was there a touch there between Kevin Estre and the number 10 of Philippe Albuquerque as they went into the first corner? I think there was. The red and white signage there telling me that was the turn left-handed of Franklin, just onto St. Antoine Street, and that means that will be getting looked at by race control. And indeed, that number 6 and 10 contact is under review. There's a little bit of damage to one of the dive planes on the right front of the number 6, which has just gone by the BMW of Marco Wittmann, and his teammates trying to follow through as well, and dives down the inside as he goes down the hill. And it is quite a big downhill move from Bates onto Atwater and onto the waterfront there. Well, I thought the only overtaking we would see, Ryan Marine, would be at the end of Jefferson into turn 3. The two Porsche Penske racing drivers who are out there at the moment have decided to make a few different overtaking possibilities.
It's a pleasant surprise. I was on board with your line of thinking, that's for sure, coming in. To some degree, though, I think this could be a case of a couple of cars that had some pace that didn't get to start in a place reflective of that pace, now making their way up through the field, and that's the case for these Porsches, both of which had issues, as I mentioned, lost fast laps in qualifying, and now we're starting to see the true potential of those cars. But there is that review. In fact, that's now been decided upon. No action taken. Very interesting, the call from race control with the contact there between the leading Porsche and Philippe Albuquerque in the Cadillac that allowed the two Porsches to get through on the Cadillac. We know there was contact, but evidently it was not enough to draw the attention of race control.
Hello to those of you listening in South Africa. Luco Zarded. From Sunderland. IMSA listening and watching a brilliant weekend. That's my neck of the woods. Europa League next year for the football team there. The 60 Maishank Racing entered a closed pit. It will have to stop again. So that will take the 60 all the way down the field. Indeed, Colin Brown has attended to that and now sits in 20th position. Let's talk about GTD Pro, Ryan. Alexander Sims got the drop. His teammate Tommy Milner went wide in turn 3, the first competitive corner. The Vassar Sullivan of Ben Barnicat, the Ford Racing Mustang GT3 of Frederick Verviche slipped in between them, and that's still how they run. So it's Corvette, Lexus, Ford and Chevrolet, the first 4.
Fred Verviche was the man on the move there on that initial start. He went from 5th on the grid to 3rd, and that's where he sits right now. Milner, the big loser from the outside of the front row, he dropped off the podium, now sits in the 4th spot. Ben Barker also lost his spot there at the start, with Barnicat making up a position, running up in 2nd place now. To update you on the strategy, AO Racing has gone ahead and done what we talked about, John. They've brought the Harry King-driven car in and swapped to Nick Tandy. So they're rolling the dice, and you mentioned the fact that the 60 had to come in anyway after doing service in a closed pit. I was wondering how that would be viewed, because they also had that mechanical black flag, so they had to come in, but evidently you still can't do that in a closed pit without having to come back in. But they've gone ahead and done a driver change too. Tom Blomqvist out, Colin Brown in. So those are 2 cars on the back foot early that are dumpster diving for their strategy a little bit today.
We've seen that work in the past, though, on street circuits in particular. The number 77, bright green EO Racing Porsche now with the Bedfordshire Pullet. Nick Tandy on board. Hello to Felix and the rest of the Tandy family, Brittany and Evie as well. I'm sure Eva will be watching as well at what time are we in the UK? Just after 9. The next generation of Tandy drivers. Felix has already won a British Championship karting round that season. His next season getting underway now. Hello to Alistair Durant, who's been down at Silverstone for the BRD International Trophy today. Hot day in the centre of the UK. He said many people might think that spending the day marshalling and then tuning in before doing the same tomorrow is too much. Not me, not us either. Alistair, thank you very much for giving your most precious resource, your time, to go and marshal in the UK, and our thanks go to all the marshals worldwide this weekend. At IMSA Radio, if you want to get in touch with us. Robert Melvin is tuned in as well, watching and listening in. What it has to be said is pretty perfect conditions. A little bit chilly earlier on this morning for an unusual warm-up session for the WeatherTech Sports Car Championship, but now the track temperature sitting at spot on 100 Fahrenheit, 70 Fahrenheit in the air. That's 38 Celsius on the track and 21 in the air. This is pretty nigh on perfect for the moment, Ryan.
Oh, it's been a gorgeous weekend all throughout the time that I've been here in Detroit. You really can't complain whatsoever about the weather. And that warm-up that you mentioned, that was a big deal for Porsche Penske in particular. Car number 6 that had the big impact with the wall yesterday, and with Kevin Estra at the wheel. The team was here overnight working on that car, not quite overnight, but until about 12:30 this morning, trying to get the car prepped. We were wondering if they might have to go to a spare chassis, but they did not. It's the same chassis that crashed yesterday, and they at least had that warm-up session to validate all those repairs. That is not common these days at the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship, but that certainly fell into their hands, and right now, Estra and Nasser, his teammate, have been on the move, making their way up through the field, sitting 5th and 6th right now.
Cadillac, Acura, BMW, your top 3 at the moment, separated by a little over 5 seconds. And hello to James Cook, who's in Kettering in the UK, right in Northamptonshire. 2 new BMW tattoos this week after the BMW victory in WEC in Spa. Let's make it a double this weekend before we go for the triple in a fortnight in France. We will be decanting our studio to France for next weekend. The only live free coverage, in fact the only coverage of Le Mans Test Weekend is a week tomorrow. We'll have midweek motorsport on Wednesday, and then special programs Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then we start Le Mans week with a bang with the extended coverage of the Le Mans 24 hours. Plenty of IMSA interest there. Hello, Hukalai, and also to Dejan from Serbia, International Motorsports Association, IMSA. Serbia, Lazar and Dejan tuning in this evening, watching and listening live. Ireland also with Gav O'Toole tuned in. Eric's in Canada and Clark Duffy in Birmingham in the UK. Absolutely great, he says, watching these cars hustle around this circuit. At the moment, it feels a little bit, Ryan, like a heavyweight boxing match. There's a little bit of jabbing, there's a little bit of digging around, but nobody making any big moves at the front of the field.
We're in that feeling out process. We're not seeing any haymakers thrown just yet, but you're getting a sense for the strengths and weaknesses of the various platforms. We've had a few more pit callers since we talked about it last. Of note, Rahal Letterman-Lanigan, they've taken their McLaren in. So Nikita Johnson, who's doing double duty this week and also racing in Indy next, qualified in the top 10 for that race. It'll be tomorrow. He's given way to Max Esterson. Sandy Mitchell, I believe, did they come in? I think so. Now I'm questioning myself. Actually, they did not. So
No.
just the Rahal car that's been in. But in GTP, the Heart of Racing has brought in its Valkyrie, and it's now Roman DeAngelis that's driving, but they've made their stop.
Yeah, and they're going to have to come back in again. They had people over the wall before the car stopped on that number 23 Valkyrie Heart of Racing car. It's starting to get a bit mixed up now with this pit stop strategy from a variety of the cars. So the top, I reckon it's the top 14 rather, GTs and GTD Pros and GTPs have not yet stopped. So we've now got GTP Pros and prototypes coming back through that field at the moment. The first car that has stopped is Colin Brown in the Acura Myshak Racing, number 60. He's in 15th position, 10th in GTP because Roman DeAngelis is now aboard the Aston Martin Heart of Racing Valkyrie, but he's absolutely embroiled in the middle of the GTD Pro field and having to pick his way through. Eric is watching the race on his birthday in Canada. What a great way. In comes Heart of Racing, number 23. Again, this is the drive-through. He goes right down the middle, the red, white and blue stripe. Staying to the right-hand side, as Ryan Marine was talking about earlier on in the Ford Racing Global Broadcast Centre. He rejoins ahead of the FAF Temerario as they go through turn one, and that red and white branding there. No time to settle here. 100 minutes we started with, 22 minutes gone. So an hour and 17 to go. And at the front of the field, at the moment, the GTP runners and the GTD Pros, Ryan, are playing their cards close to their chest. They're running long.
They are so far. We're inching closer, though, to the window where you might be able to do this on one more stop. I think to do it comfortably in GTD Pro, you're looking at about 65 minutes or thereabouts on the clock, a little under that for GTP, closer to the hour mark with some fuel save. You should be able to make it home to the end. So that's when you start to see the window opening for real. These early pit callers, these are people going off sequence. They're trying to roll the dice. Cars without track position, cars that had issues early in the race. They're doing something different, but for a front runner, you can start thinking about that stop, as I said, coming up in the next 10-15 minutes. And again, one thing to keep in mind here is if you are running toward the front, there is less a risk of dropping off the lead lap and being caught out by a yellow here than compared to Long Beach, and that simply comes down to the length of the pit lane. Long Beach is, I think, the longest, if it's not, it's very close to the longest pit lane on the schedule. It takes forever to go down that pit lane. Here, it's only about 13 seconds, a little less than that. So with that in mind, you can roll the dice a bit more here without the risk potentially of getting trapped by a full course yellow.
Waiting to see who jumps first at the front of the field with a little over an hour and 16 minutes to go. Tristan Barden and his son Sebastian are watching on the YouTube. Kent in the south of the UK. Tristan, thanks for joining us. Sebastian finished on the podium at Bookmore Park. Oh, Bookmore Park kart circuit. It is almost a Nürburgring of kart circuits. Fantastic. He wants to race GTD one day. Remember the name, he says. At IMSA Radio, if you want to get in touch with us. Spiros Kotsonis from Greece. Never miss a race despite the time zone issues. Preparing to stay up this evening Now in has come the number 1 Neil Verhagen driven Paul Miller Racing machine. Connor De Filippi is taking that over. That's tight. It's a short track here. Can that car go to the end from here? Is that the first of our last pit stoppers, Ryan?
Oh, that would take some help, but I think what they might be doing is gambling on a yellow that could help them get to the end from here. And look, history tells us we're going to have some here at Detroit. I mean, you talked about it right off the top. This is a rough and tumble place. There's a reason that Rexy is kitted out with that mouth guard and boxing gloves here this weekend, and it's not just the rich boxing history of Detroit, but over the years, this race has produced some pretty chaotic races. So, again, if you don't feel like you can get the results you're looking for just on pace alone, you roll the dice, you think, okay, maybe with some fuel save and with some yellow, which you anticipate will come at one point or another here at Detroit, then maybe they could stretch it.
You'd think so, wouldn't you? Hello to my Shank Racing, who, not unremarkably, are watching from Detroit, Michigan, hoping that their Acura pulls another street course victory out today. Nick Tandy through the field at the moment. They have done one pit stop, as has Max Esterson for RLL Team McLaren in 9th in GTD Pro, Connor De Filippi in 8th in GTD Pro. Those are the only GTD cars that have stopped, and that's put them off the lead lap as it stands at the moment. Hugh Bowen is watching on YouTube from an oncology ward in Gloucestershire in the UK. I hope you get well soon. Challenging weekend of treatment for Hugh. Can't say that our commentary and vision will make life any better, but I hope it makes you feel better, Hugh. Good luck, mate, in what you're going through at the moment. At IMSA Radio, if you want to get in touch. Still just on an hour and 13 to go. Earl Bamber by 4.5 seconds has pulled away in the Cadillac from what has been an all-conquering Acura in the last few years. Then it's number 24 BMW in the hands of Sheldon von der Linde, sorry. Just caught the fact that Alexander Sims has done a new fastest lap of the race for the GTs. And here come the pit stops. Both of the Ford GT3 Mustangs coming in together, Ryan.
Well, this tells me they think they're in their window because they're not splitting the strategy at all, and you're seeing other drivers up on the wall with helmets on as well. So, again, we talked about the chances of caution here at Detroit being quite high. You don't want to be stuck on track with your rivals having already made their stop. So as soon as that window cracks open and you feel reasonably comfortable going the rest of the way, bring that car in, do the driver changes, do the fuel top off or the energy replenishment. But we've not seen tire changes, at least I haven't, John, so far in the pit stops that we've seen footage of.
I agree, and I was about to say exactly the same thing. That's been noticed as well by Kapishan in Turkey, who's tuned in tonight. Daniel says, have you seen the amount of brake dust coming out of the number 6 Porsche Penske Motorsport? We've been watching that. Hello to Thomas Frederick, to his Motorsport brothers Ryan and James, the guys who put up with his pestering about every race possible. My goodness me, we've got a lot of people tuned in this Saturday night. Into the pit lane for the number 4 Tommy Milner Corvette. This is taking a long time, and that was fuel only, and they're still not ready to go. The driver's door is open. This is costing them time, and now they get away. But that was not the smooth Pratt Miller stop that we're used to. They're from just down the Detroit River, and that car goes back out with Nicky Katzberg at the wheel, but Nicky's got some track position to make up there, Ryan.
Well, that's not great for them. They dropped back at the start, and that did seem like a slow stop. And those are the championship leaders coming in as well, and they've done it on the strength of consistency and avoiding errors. Interestingly, though, is the car that exited the pit lane just in front of them, and that was the 93 Acura for Meyer-Shank. So it's now Renger van der Zande behind the wheel. That's the first of the front-running GTPs to pit in what you would have to consider the more traditional strategy here at Detroit, and Renger is going to be one to watch. Since 2021, his average finish on a street course is third, and that includes 6 wins. He is dynamite on this type of track.
Max Esterson just clipping the wall, coming off Atwater Street at turn 7 with the right rear of the car. Hello to Frank Plasmans. The race time remaining is 1:09, 1 minute 9 and 24, 23, 22, 21 for those of you who are syncing up. And a spin for the newly rejoined Dennis Olsen in the Ford Racing Mustang in 7th position. He's sideways across the track. He's going to have to try and get that car going again. He's got it in first gear, but there's not enough room. He's going to have to find reverse. Oh my goodness, this is awful for him. He is in the runoff at turn 8, which is at the end of the run before St. Antoine. And before you turn left to come into the pit lane area. Also got Corvette in the pit lane as well. That's the number 3 car, Alexander Sims, from the lead of the GTD Pro race. We have stayed green, 1 hour and 8.5 minutes to go. Everybody would have been watching very carefully there, Ryan. We've stayed green, 6. Oh, and now the... Now I wonder if this is a right rear suspension problem at turn 4. That's straight on at the end of Jefferson before you turn right onto Bates, and that is the 59 McLaren, Max Esterson, who we saw clipping the wall earlier on. All the teams at the front of the field who've not stopped will be watching that carefully.
I agree. I think if you're in that position where you've not made your stop yet, you might want to do so post-haste because race control will be watching that McLaren. Good news, it has been able to carry on, so it doesn't look like that was terminal damage. I had the same thought. We knew the car had brushed the wall, and I wondered if maybe it was stopped there, but that's the risk you run as you run longer in this pit sequence. All it takes is one miscue from another car, and your entire race strategy can go up in smoke.
Hello to Italy, Naples and Mirko, who's watching tonight now. Did Esterson get a little bit of help here down at turn 3, 4 as he was going on? No, that's live. He is back running again right in front of the Corvette of Dennis Olsen. They've both had their issues. Max goes to the inside and covers the double left-hander at the end of Franklin. Now coming up to the right-hander, they'll drop down the hill. It's quite steep here, actually. They're down on Bates Street to Atwater. Here's the leader in the pit lane. 1 hour and 6.5, Ryan. And it looks like a full... Oh, no. Right side Michelin's only, I think, and Earl Bamber is out.
I think you're spot on. They're only going to make that change. The fuel is done. It took a little longer to get the driver buckled in, it looked like, and they might have had to wait on that just a few precious seconds, but that car had a nice, healthy lead coming into this sequence, and now, not wasting around, Jack Aitken in the car dives in front of the GT battle that's raging right behind it.
Had a smashing interview with Jack last Tuesday. You'll hear it on our Le Mans coverage as we did an inside story on Cadillac Hood's Team Jota and their last test before Le Mans, and Jack was in fine form. I'll say that. It's worth listening to on 91.2 FM around the circuit and RS2 around the world. Hello to Joe Tandy Racing in the UK. They're tuned in, hoping the boss can come home victorious. The boss is Nick Tandy, and that if he does do that, he will have a full set of wins in current IMSA circuits, and he'll be the first driver to do that. Hello to Niels Doms, listening from Belgium, with a Belgian beer in hand. If only that was the case, but not whilst we're on air in the Ford Racing Global Broadcast Centre at IMSA Radio. Kip Duron is in Berlin listening to us. Europe is really into the streets of Detroit this weekend. International Motorsports Association on YouTube. And right now, it's Kevin Estre and Felipe Nasser for Porsche Penske Motorsport who lead. They're running the strategy here, Ryan. The top four, so Marco Wittmann for BMW and Philippe Albuquerque, they have not yet stopped. They are waiting, they are running long. They can probably go for another 20 minutes, I reckon, before they need to come in. They're waiting to see if anything's going to happen. They're playing the numbers here.
Yeah, I think you're right. So they're going to run long, it looks like, here in the opening stint. It's more straightforward in GTD Pro right now, where everyone has come to the pit lane as of this moment, because Chaz Mostert has finally come in. I don't think he wanted out of the car, John. He got the call up to come here and join Vassar Sullivan, drive the Lexus RCF GT3, and they kept him out very long in this opening stint. That's a one-off that they're running in GTD Pro this weekend, similar to what they did in GTD at Long Beach, where they've got the car, so you might as well find a way to run it. And they've had some success doing that in the past, but it looks like Chaz is done. He comes into the pit lane now, and will turn that car over to his co-driver.
In Ireland at the moment, group of sports car fans watching on with Richard Kelly, watching on the big screen, and he says, with the track being so narrow, I'm getting a claustrophobic feeling with the in-car, almost ducking out of the way on some of the corners. It is that tight, and trust me, it is that tight, barely 2 cars wide in some of the areas, particularly coming into turn 1 and coming down to turn 8. 4, 5, 6 and 7, it's pretty much follow my leader there. You wouldn't think that at the moment as they come through onto the finishing straight with Max Esterson and Dennis Olsen battling it out. Come to turn 1 now through the red and white area of the circuit. Prototype coming up behind them will be the number 24 BMW, as into the pit lane comes Lauren Heinrich, who has already jumped in for Tymon van der Helm, so that's his second pit stop, but they'll be good to the end from here, Ryan.
That's exactly what they're thinking. So I think their roll of the dice didn't quite come up the way they wanted. They did that 2-stop strategy, made the quick change pretty early in the going. Now they brought Lauren in to make sure he's good to go to the finish. And that puts him on the sequence with the majority of GTP, with the exception of those 4 cars that haven't pitted yet. The 2 Porsche Penske's, number 6 and number 7, then Marco Wittmann in the first of the BMWs and the 10 car as well. And I take that back. That was not a strategic play. Evidently, that was a drive-through penalty for Heinrich. So now they probably still need to make another stop, if I'm understanding this correctly.
That's the second car that's been caught for persons over the wall. Before the car stopped, we had the Aston Martin of Harder Racing, the number 23 car earlier on, talking to the guys there. They are not expecting to be good here. This track does not suit that car. They haven't had a big BOP or any BOP adjustment. They're running on 1030 kilograms of the maximum amount of power, but that car just doesn't really suit around here. Into the pit lane for Felipe Nasser, who will vacate the number 7 Porsche Penske Motorsport. That leaves Kevin Estre at the front of the field with barely a 2-second gap between himself and Marco Wittmann, and Felipe Albuquerque for Cadillac number 10 is another second and a half back. Those are the only 3 cars now who have yet to stop, with spot on 1 hour to go, Ryan.
And I want to correct something. That penalty for Heinrich there, they pitted. They were on the same sequence as most of these leaders, so they weren't on that early stop thing. That was incorrect when I said that. So they are good to go to the end. They don't have to do an additional stop, but that drive-through penalty, I guess one way to look at it, that might be booking Laurin Heinrich a trip to Belgium in a couple of weeks, because as we talked about earlier, Porsche wasn't entirely sure what to do with him, considering he's leading the championship here at IMSA, driving for a couple of different teams, but he's committed to the Schumacher CLRT team for the Crown Strike 24 Hours of Spa, and they were going to see where he stood after Detroit. Unfortunately, now they're quite a ways down the order, and I think that championship lead might be not long for this world, depending on the outcome in the race here today, and that might just have sealed the fate of Laurin Heinrich. And, you know, not a bad situation when your 2 choices are 2 of the classic sports car races in the world, but that's what you get when you're as in demand as young Laurin Heinrich is these days.
He's still on the lead lap, he says. Yeah, I think he still is on the lead. He will be when the leaders come in. So I'm not writing any headlines right now. Nick Tandy, Max Asterson, Dennis Olsen, all scrapping at the back of the GTD Pro field as Felipe Albuquerque comes in the pit lane for the 3rd place Cadillac. Now, EO, RLLT McLaren and Ford Racing, they were some of the teams that came in the earliest in the GTD Pro field, so don't count them out yet either. But right now, those 3 are having a cracking scrap as they go down the hill towards turn 5 and 6, or Bate Street on the Atwater, then the little right-left flick in front of Andy Armours. At the lead at the moment, Kevin Estra still holds it by 3.5 seconds from Marco Wittmann. They are the only 2 cars, the Porsche number 6, the BMW 25, who have yet to stop. First car that has stopped now has Felipe Albuquerque got out in the number 10. Or is it Jack Aitken who effectively leads the pit-stopped cars? It's Jack Aitken that leads the pit-stopped cars, and here is Estra in the pit lane in the red and white striped car. He's out, he walks away with nary a backward glance. Little bit of damage on that right front being attended to. Fuel going in, energy being replenished. Right side Michelin's, I think, but nothing on the left-hand side. And out it goes, and here's the 31 coming through. He's going to go back in the lead. Aitken goes back into the lead, and the Temerario Fat Racing is between the 2 leaders. So that is the effective lead for Jack Aitken, as Marco Wittmann has yet to stop. So it's Cadillac number 31 from Porsche Penske number 6. Those are your leaders at the moment. Behind them, Ricky Taylor for Cadillac, he stopped. Renger von der Zande in the red, white and black number 93 Acura, he stopped. And Julian Andlauer has stopped as well. And in comes Marco Wittmann, the final GTP car, Ryan, to stop.
Right, so that will then cycle Aitken up, as you were talking about, in a few moments, but Wittmann does eventually bring that car in. Waiting to see where Lawrence Van cycles out as well. Now, a few moments ago, this has been a fierce battle at the back of GTD Pro. Ford and McLaren and Porsche, and wow, this has been fantastic. It's for the dregs of the class, unfortunately, but it's been captivating nevertheless.
Yeah, that is Nick Tandy, Dennis Olsen, Max Estersen in that order now, in 9th, 10th and 11th, some 40 seconds away from the lead in category. Remember, they stopped earlier. They're playing a different game from everyone else. I'm looking at virtual fuel tanks here and seeing where we think people might get to. but this is already enthralling. We've fortunately seen no issues with cars coming together and no requirement for the Corvette safety car to come out with 55 minutes to go. This has been a flat-out endurance race where people have made their minds up early about their tactics, Ryan Marine, and as yet there's been no need to change any of those tactical decisions. No pivots required.
Yeah, just had the one yellow really early for the debris, but other than that, as you say, it's been super clean up to this point with still 54 minutes on the clock. A number of teams, I think, did gamble early on, expecting some yellows, and there are a few that pitted right on the fringe of pit windows that are, I think, counting on some yellow laps before it's all said and done, and that will be interesting to watch. But those that gambled on the other side and took the risk, stayed out, ran deep, ran the overcut, that's worked really well to this point. Look what it's done for the 10, able to jump up into the 4th spot, also the 20, and they were higher until the thing cycled through a little bit. And then also, I think it's worked pretty well for Ang and for Vanthor and company too. So there was some risk with it because you leave yourself vulnerable to the yellow, but they were able to get plenty of clear track, put down some fast laps. The Michelins have been hanging on really well, it would appear, and they were able to use that to their advantage, gambling against full course yellow, which I normally wouldn't recommend here at Detroit, but today it seems to be the right choice.
Oh, I cannot believe you have just said that, Ryan Marine. I really can't. It's been hectic though, it's been exciting. I've nearly finished a full water bottle already here at the Ford Racing Global Broadcast Centre. Here's how it stands in our VP in race update. Jack Aitken leads by 5 seconds over Philip Eng and the BMW. So Cadillac 31 from BMW 25. Lawrence Vantor just a second further back in the Porsche ahead of Ricky Taylor, who's nearly 2 seconds further back. Then Renger van der Zande for Acura BMW, another second further back for Dries Vantor. Julian Andlauer, Jordan Taylor, Colin Brown, Lauren Heinrich, and Heinrich at the moment being hassled by Roman De Angelis as they're battling for 10th and 11th. And it was Heinrich going down the inside a moment or two ago, just wiping the nose of the Heart of Racing Aston Martin as they go through that first major braking area, turn 3. And there's a little, oh my goodness me. Well, that will be looked at, and that's going to be a stop and 60 seconds for Lauren Heinrich as he put the Heart of Racing number 23, Roman De Angelis, into the wall on the run down from 4 into 5. That's how the GTP cars stand at the end of lap number 39. 52 minutes remaining. That's your VP in race updates. Into the pit lane for the stop and hold. Elbows out, but a little bit too robust, Ryan, for Lauren Heinrich, our championship points leader on his own. He's going to sit there for a minute in the dark grey and gold Mustang sampling Porsche.
Yikes, yeah, that is really a harsh penalty, and it's race control sending a pretty clear message. They did not like what they saw at all. A big part of their focus has been this year, making sure you leave room for your competitor at quarter exit, and really at all times, and that was not adhered to there quite clearly. So the penalty's been handed down, and unlike a drive-through, which here is really a slap on the wrist, relatively speaking, just 12 seconds to go through this pit lane, this stop and hold around a really short lap like this one, this takes them completely out of the fight.
They're going to lose a lap. That's a lap lost, I reckon, for that number 5 car, and they will need some help. Reminder to Ryan that he and I have got to come up with a BDO nose strategy play as well for this race, and at the moment. This has been pretty much a flat-out blast. Is there something to come on the strategy front? A little bit of a split between the GTP, some guys coming in early, the others going long. But I think at the moment we've still got to work out how this is going to play out at the end, Ryan.
Yeah, I think the early nominee from my standpoint would be the 6 Porsche Penske crew. They ran long, and again, you assume some risk when you do that, potentially being caught out by a yellow. But going into the pit sequence, at least in my notes, I had them 5th. They ended up in 3rd. And remember, this is a car that was in the wall yesterday in qualifying. So the way that they've been able to race their way forward in the first stint and now strategize themselves forward a couple more spots and potentially be on the podium at the end of the day. I mean, if you had asked us with some truth serum, some of Arjuna's truth serum yesterday after qualifying, John, would you have said a podium was on the cards for Porsche Penske? I certainly would not have. So all credit where credit is due.
Hello to Thomas Riecher in Germany, to Grant Westman, Simon Hoff, and to Mikhail Robinik, who is tuned in at the moment. Also Blurfiend and Bill Hearn tuned in at the moment, and John Foreman with his mum Janet in Toronto watching the race here at Detroit. Nigel Dobby says Ford has cut the Corvette lead from 5 seconds to 1.5 in the last few laps. It's down to half a second now, Nigel. I know you're a big Corvette fan and you run Corvettes on the street. Tonio Garcia has got 1 car between himself and Chris Meets, and the number 3 and 65 are battling for the lead further down. Andrea Caldarelli, Dennis Olsen, Max Esterson and Nick Tandy are battling for 7th, 8th and 9th. This is all getting a bit hectic.
Really good stuff in the GT classes. Right now, Garcia, I mean, that was a pretty healthy lead, but it's definitely come down. Meese is closing in. Hawksworth's in the conversation. Katzberg and company, good recovery. We thought they might have had a longer pit stop, and I'll have to do a little checking on that to see if I can get to the bottom of it, but they're still in 4th, which is where they were going into the pit sequence. Anyone of that group is in the mix, John. Then you got to go back quite a ways to get to Tielitz in that one-off entry for Vassar Sullivan that was started superbly by Chaz Mostert, who I think deserves a quick shout-out. I was looking at his best lap before his pit stop. He was within a couple of tenths of the fastest lap in class. That's in a car that he had not driven outside of a brief test earlier in the week, and it's at a track he had not been to before, plus all the jet lag, right? He was racing in Tasmania just last weekend. Here he is in Detroit. He's got to be wondering, where am I? And as you would expect from a driver of his caliber, he was right on the pace from the word go.
Pit stop for Lauren Heinrich. That should be his last scheduled pit stop with 47 minutes to go.
That was a mechanical black flag,
from
John.
Richard Kelly. That was a mechanical black flag, thank you. So he's in and out for the damage at the on the bodywork of that car. We've got a final pit stop from Chris Meese. Now the second pit stop for the Ford Mustang, number 65. I was not expecting that car in, Ryan.
No, that was a right front that they changed, and they took quite a look at it, and that was not part of the plan, I think it's safe to say. So not sure what happened, but that was one of the contenders. That car was second when it came into the pits and has dropped well down the order.
Question from, in the wall at turn number 5 for, now which of the RCFs was that? But that was a big hit on the wall, and it's dislodged some of the safety equipment. It was Jack Hawksworth, I think, in second position, who's swiped the wall pretty substantially. Second in the category, Nicky Katzberg might have just nipped past. No, he hasn't. Katzberg's still behind him, amazingly enough. But that was a fairly substantial bang on the wall at turn 5. Dries Vanthoor involved in that, in the 24 BMW prototype, Ryan, and that's been looked at by race control.
Yeah, and they don't like it when the two different classes converge like that. I'd be curious to see it again. Frankly, I only caught the tail end, which was Hawksworth smacking into that barrier there at the outside. And good thing those Lexus RCF GT3s are made pretty sturdy. That was a decent cloud, but was able to continue on. Seems to still reasonably be on the pace, but what it's done is it's allowed Garcia to open up that lead once again. Remember, we were talking about Mies closing in. It was down around a second. Well, now it's over 5 seconds to Hawksworth, and maybe this gives Katzberg a chance to go on the charge. He's within a second of Hawksworth for second place, or he was before traffic intervened.
A penalty for Dries Vanthoor for that contact with Jack Hawksworth in the RCF. It is a drive-through penalty, and well, that's interesting, isn't it? That's a drive-through, and it was a stop plus 60 for Heinrich for contact that put someone into the wall. Aiken leads by 9 seconds. Cadillac from BMW. Then, after Philip Eng, it's another 0.2 of a second. That's a cracking scrap that's going on there. Lawrence Vanthoor, as you rightly said, Ryan, the number 6 Porsche Penske Motorsport team, playing the strategic card the best, and they're up to 6th position. Sorry, the 6th is up to 3rd position at the moment. Then BMW coming in the pits now is Dries Vanthoor from 4th position. Ricky Taylor for Cadillac in 5th, 6th. Renger van der Zande, and in GTD Pro Corvette by an increasing margin. Antonio Garcia by 2.5 seconds on the Vassar Sullivan Lexus. Lexus Chevrolet with Nicky Katzberg in 3rd place. Then it's the second of the Lexus, so the Corvettes and the Lexus sharing the top 4 places. The best of the rest is the BMW of Conor De Filippi in 5th, and Andrea Caldarelli for Lamborghini and FAF Motorsport in 6th. That's your 2 top 6s, and that's your VP in race update. We are inside the second half of the race.
So 42 minutes. Sorry, John.
Second half of. Go ahead.
I just was going to jump in real quick and kind of set the situation here. So we are at this stage more or less in a flat-out dash. That if you were doing this the way that you wanted to and doing it on one stop, that's the primary strategy. That's long since passed. So from here on out, it's really about pace, except for the handful of cars that pitted early in the window that might be doing a little bit of fuel saving, but that really doesn't affect too many of the front runners at this stage. But look at the pace that Aiken's had. Aiken's just been flying.
Oh. We have no cars out of the race, just a single caution for 3 short 1.6, call it 1.7 mile laps. 48 laps completed, and Jack Aiken leads by nearly 10 seconds. That's your Pelotti race recap in the middle of the Chevrolet Detroit Sports Car Classic, live on IMSA Radio and IMSA TV. 41.5 minutes to go. It's Ryan Marine and me, John Heindorf, in the Ford Racing Global Broadcast Centre. This is absolutely full on 100% rev limiter. Absolutely fantastic entertainment. I don't think I've taken a full breath, Ryan, since the drop of the green flag.
There was no time to. It's been like this, really, with the brief exception of that yellow for debris right at the outset. But other than that, the action's been hot and heavy. And the thing that really has impressed me is the way that the two classes have, by and large, cooperated. The fact that we had the one penalty a moment ago for Dries Vanthoor, contact with Jack Hawksworth, that's the exception that proves the rule. In general, the two classes have been quite cooperative with one another, and this is what you really hope to see when you get mixed class sports car racing on a street circuit.
Nick Tandy trying to hold on to the lead lap, has got Antonio Garcia right up Rexy's tailpipes here, and he is trying to stay on the lead lap to give him a chance to have the clean sweep of IMSA tracks in terms of wins. It's an outside opportunity at the moment, but Nick Tandy, the Bedfordshire Bullet, he's trying to pull that off. At IMSA Radio, if you want to get in touch next weekend, remember we have Michelin Pilot Challenge and a 4-hour contest along with some support races, which includes Ford Mustang GT Challenge and Whelen Mazda MX-5, Mid-Ohio next Saturday and Sunday. And on the Sunday, and I don't think there's any, well, that much overlap actually, we also have Le Mans Test Day next weekend. RS2 has the IMSA content, RS1 has the Le Mans content as we shift our broadcast out. Oh, big wide moment for the Corvettes. Now, which of the Corvettes was that? That would have been Antonio Garcia, the leader of the track. He's trying to get round Nick Tandy. At the moment, it's costing him time. Tandy, reasonably so, wants to stay on the lead GTD Pro lap at the moment, Ryan, and he's making that AO Racing Porsche pretty wide.
Bingo, spot on. I've been watching that gap here the last handful of laps. Hawksworth, any concerns that that car might not be at its best after the run-in with the 24 BMW? I think we can put those behind us. He's doing some really quick laps right now, and Garcia is absolutely stuck behind Nick Tandy and Rexy, who, to your point, rightly trying to hang on to the lead lap in class. That way maybe they can salvage something if they gain a yellow. But how long can Garcia continue to be patient? Because just a second behind is Jack Hawksworth in the Lexus, and behind that is the other Corvette of Nicky Katzberg that's recovering beautifully.
It's like the number 60 Acura's been down the pit lane for an additional stop. I can't see a penalty for that, and it looks like Tom Blomqvist is back in that car. Colin Brown has got out of that car, so something not right there for me. That's their second run down pit lane.
Yeah, I think they were the ones, they pitted kind of early, as I recall, so maybe this is something they needed to do. I'm not entirely sure, but I think there's a problem for the Valkyrie, which was slow on track, and it's bottling up this battle for the lead. It's now 1 second covering first, second, and third in GTD Pro, and they were stuck behind the Valkyrie for a little bit there. If we actually saw Tandy get around it, so not entirely sure what Roman DeAngelis is dealing with, but listening from on board, just looking at the last few laps as well, doesn't seem like that car is quite right.
Wow. Well, down Franklin into the braking area at the hairpin at turn 3, 182 miles an hour. That's IndyCar speed. I saw 178 earlier on today when I was watching the IndyCar. You were taking far more notice of that with your duties on IndyCar Radio as well. Those sports cars are really quick down Franklin to turn number 3 and 4. My goodness me. Tight track, very few opportunities. Our Porsche keys to the race, track position, tyres, walls. No one has done a 4-tyre stop. We've had a couple of 2-tyre stops. We've had people trying to do the 100 minutes on one set of Michelin tyres. And right now, Jack Aitken for Cadillac, Whelen, and the V Sebrings are 9 seconds to the good from Philip Ain. But Philip has got Lawrence Vantour right up his tailpipes. Great scrap for second position overall. Meantime, in GTD Pro, it's Corvette by a second from the Lexus of Jack Hawksworth, and then 8 tenths back is the Corvette of Nicky Katzberg. 3 different manufacturers scrapping for 3 steps on the podium in GTD Pro. That's your VP Racing in race update. What have we got left, Ryan? 35 minutes to go, Ryan, and still great racing going on here.
Yeah, I'm really curious what happens now. Garcia got by Tandy a moment ago to put him a lap down, and now for the first time in a while, we'll see the true pace of that Corvette. But interestingly, as soon as Tandy's a lap down, he's no longer fighting the lead lap cars, so Hawksworth got a much better run around. So too Katzberg, who is putting a bunch of pressure on Hawksworth now for the 2nd position. I'm curious what kind of pace Garcia has now that he's not stuck in the traffic. Can he start to extend this lead again, or was Hawksworth really legitimately quicker in this most recent 10-15 minute segment?
That top 3 coming down the braking area at the end of Franklin, the hard left hairpin. First, 2nd, 3rd, Corvette, then the Lexus, then the 2nd of the Corvettes. They go to the left-hand side of the road and drop down right-handed onto Bates Street. It's quite steeply downhill there. Then one of the faster corners onto Atwater. Then the right left kink, right on the waterfront there, running down towards turn 8. Now the left-hander, the track used to go straight on there back in the Formula 1 days, past the pit entrance, onto Franklin, short straight into the very tight turn 1 as it is, although we didn't start on that part of the track. There's nothing in it right now between these top 3. The question will be, to me, Ryan, is can these top 3 go to the end at this pace?
That's one thing I'm curious about too, and I was in the middle of trying to find my tab that has the live telemetry that tells us what the energy remaining situation is. So I've got it pulled up now. Garcia is in the best position at just under 52% left in that virtual energy tank. Hawksworth at 49%, Katzberg at 48%. So 2nd and 3rd, basically nothing between them. Yes, and Garcia has, and none of the 3 really have any concerns about energy management the rest of the way, but Garcia certainly does not. And it's equally pretty similar at the front of the GTP field, but it's Lawrence Vanthoor who is most energy rich at this point, and he's the one who is catching 2nd place Phillip Eng. In fact, watching from on board on our monitors, they're stuck behind GT traffic in a section of the track that the prototypes cannot get by the GT cars, and that has really bunched up this fight for 2nd place.
Nice move from the BMW Phillip Eng driver on the number 1 BMW of Connor De Filippi, who has helped his prototype blue and white propeller teammates as they were coming out of the final couple of corners now through turn 1. And Jack Aitken now 11 seconds to the good on Phillip Eng, but still Lawrence Vanthoor barely 9/10 of a second. Dan Vitale says, my old tiny simple brain is failing to compute, going at 180 miles an hour on a bumpy narrow track surrounded by concrete. Am I alone in thinking that? No, you are absolutely not. These guys, no, they are wired differently. They are clocked at a different speed. The prototypes here in top speed level, not quite in lap speed, but in top speed level, are going the same pace as an IndyCar through here. IndyCar race here tomorrow, Indy next as well. And these guys at the sharp end of the prototype field in terms of top speed at the end of Franklin before they break on that bumpy area. Now, some of it has been repaved, has to be said, down through the back end of Franklin, down through Bates and Atwater, turns 2, 3 and 4, 3, 4 and 5. That has been repaved and it's a little less bumpy. I use those words, a little less bumpy, in a relative, but particularly relative point. It is still bumpy. These guys are getting shaken around like the last custard cream in the biscuit barrel. Incredible stuff from these guys. Aitken by now 10, call it 11 seconds, and Philip Eng's pulled out a second now on Lawrence Vantor, but it's still all happening. Lawrence Vantor has made a pit stop, Roman De Angelis has made a pit stop for the Heart Racing Valkyrie. Comes out in 10th position ahead of Lauren Heinrich, who's a couple of laps off the lead now. Half an hour to go, Ryan, and it's still all to play for. This now, at the sharp end of each of the two classes, these are proper class battles. These are a run to the flag now.
Exactly, no caveats to bring up at all in these top battles in both of the classes. And I think we're starting to see the cars that have been the strongest over the course of the weekend exerting that strength in the race now as well. The 31 was the quickest in every single session, both practices and qualifying. The only exception was the warm-up this morning. But other than that, they have been the fastest all weekend long. And that's now showing on the track, nearly 11 seconds the lead in GTP. Similarly, in GTD, it wasn't quite as cut and dry, but it was pretty clear early on that Corvette was as strong, if not stronger, than anybody else in the field. They've executed extremely well, especially with the 3-car, clean pit stop, stayed out of trouble, and now that Garcia is clear of that lap traffic, a lead that had shrunk under a second has ballooned once again to nearly 3 seconds, and Garcia is pulling away from Hawksworth.
Final pit stop for Nick Tandy and AO Racing. Rexy, the 77 car, it hasn't played out for them with their strategy this time around. Dates for next year have been released, and it looks like this race will, actually it doesn't look like, it's pretty certain that this race next year will clash with Le Mans Test Day, which probably means that we won't have prototypes here, presumably, so that the works drivers can go to Le Mans and do the test day on the Sunday. It's not, actually we've done it before. I'll take that back. We've done it before here, where people have jumped on flights on Saturday night out of Detroit to go back to Europe and been able to get into Le Mans for at least the Sunday afternoon. The problem comes if you are a rookie at Le Mans and you need to do a certain amount of laps and there's any issues, that might mean the prototype teams and manufacturers fiddling with their driver combinations here for next year. Next year's WBC calendar not yet released. IMSA released theirs at Sebring earlier this year, but the smart money is on these two races clashing. It is Le Mans Test next weekend for this year, and we'll have coverage of that for you. Had a long conversation recently with a couple of drivers about how difficult it is to get their schedule sorted out, particularly for your GT3 driver, Ryan, and you do an awful lot of GT3 racing outside of IMSA as well, and we were not bemoaning the fact that there was so much racing, but one driver said to me, I almost, and he stressed almost, I almost liked the days when we finished in September and didn't come back till March or April, and there was a couple of weekends off during the year. If you're a sports car fan now, it's pretty much year-round, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. I would put this in the category of good problems to have, right? Sign me up. This is what we're going to be complaining about, that we have too much sports car racing to follow. That sounds like a good problem to have as far as I'm concerned. And, oh, we got a problem here. This is a front-running car. Lawrence Vantor off in the runoff, John.
No, that is the better placed of the two Porsches. Third position for the number 6963 3. Now, did he manage to get going again?
Yes.
Before Ricky Taylor went through? No, he didn't. The 10's ahead of him. That is the 10 right ahead of Lawrence Vanthoor. He's just given up a position on the podium after they started at the back of the class, Ryan.
Yeah, that is frustrating because they had done so well to work their way forward, and we talked about it. This is an unforgiving circuit, and it's pretty easy for a little mistake to have big consequences. I suppose that's not a massive consequence, but it drops the car out of podium contention, at least as they run. What it does do, John, is it puts the 10 car up to 3rd, and we still have a long way to go, and I don't want to put any hex on this because talking with Wayne Taylor earlier in the day, you could tell he was just fed up with the way the year has gone and some of the bad luck that's come their way. But maybe this could be a breakthrough result for that 10 crew, which through 4 races has finished 11th, 11th, 10th, and 11th. A podium would be manna from heaven for that team, which did technically finish on the podium on the road at Sebring, but they lost that due to a post-race technical infraction. So as far as what the results look like, it looks like they've not finished better than 10th all year, and they do find themselves in 3rd. That would be a huge result for them if they could hang on.
It's Ryan Marine with me, John Hindhaugh, in the Ford Racing Global Broadcast Centre. Jack Aiken now 13 seconds down the road from Philip Eng in the BMW. Ricky Taylor now 3rd, 9 seconds further back. Can Lawrence Vanthoor chase him down and make good his mistake? He's right on the tail of that blue-fronted Cadillac now, and then it's Renger van der Zande and Dries Vanthoor and Julian Andlau. They're all together. Now, what's gone on down at the far end of the circuit, going past the 1st and 2nd? Yeah, that was where Lawrence Heinrich went off. He was going past the, 2nd and 3rd, Vassar Sullivan Corvette and Corvette battle in GT, and that's when he ran on at that first major braking area, Ryan, and that was very costly for him.
Yeah, for Vanthoor, wow, that was really close. I mean, that was the lesser of two evils there. Almost got into the back of the BMW prototype and had to take evasive action, which then put him effectively in that tight runoff. Did a pretty good job, frankly, to find reverse just momentarily and then speed out of there. Cost a position, no question about it, but that could have been even more costly.
So in GTD Pro, 5 seconds separates Antonio Garcia for Corvette and Lexus as Jack Hawksworth, then Nicky Katzberg's another 3.5 back from there in the second of the Corvettes. There was a touch. I was just about to say that gap has got out a little bit from Katzberg to Hawksworth, and there was a touch on the back of the Lexus by Nicky Katzberg, and he's broken some bodywork off there.
Well, it's a rough and tumble street circuit, right? We talked about that. It's going to be close quarters racing, and contact is to be expected to some degree. That one both will be able to continue on from, but Nicky's going to have to dig deep if he's going to catch Hawksworth. And I wonder now if Hawksworth isn't under so much pressure, if he can start to match some of Garcia's lap times. And Garcia won't be too long, and I think he'll be catching the next car to put a lap down, which would be Max Esterson. And we've seen lap traffic bottle up this GTD Pro lead in the past. Could that happen yet again with 21 minutes still to go?
I know this is only a short race, but I feel I've been watching this for 10 hours already, Ryan. It's like all of my senses are turned up to 11. I'm sweating. It's absolutely full on all of the time. We've had what, 80 minutes of racing here, 20 to go, and it's been all action.
It has, and again, you have that jeopardy of street course racing where a small mistake, the back end stepping out as we get deeper into this run. Remember, so many of these tires are doing the full race distance, and so maybe a little slide that was a minor issue earlier in the race, now it starts to step out a bit more. Maybe you tag one of these concrete walls that you don't have to deal with so much on a traditional road course. That brings out a yellow, it bunches everybody up. You just don't know what to expect when you go street course racing. So you got the intensity of what's happening on track, you have the added jeopardy of these concrete canyons, and you've got mixed class racing, which adds to that unpredictability, doesn't it? And we've done it.
This is looking at the moment.
Full course yellow, John.
Looking, yeah, you've pulled the Johnny Palmer.
I did it.
Johnny has the 2 flags out on the start-finish line. This is for debris. It looks like something from the back of one of the prototypes. I wonder if... Oh. Now that was run over by the lead Cadillac. I don't think it's their piece of bodywork at turn 3 and 4, but it's a substantial piece of bodywork. So the safety car comes out. Now, is there anybody who's going to take the chance of coming in and slapping a new set of tyres on for 17, 16, 15 minutes? No, they're not going to, because we're under the time limit. So this is a short yellow, Ryan. The pits will not open.
Yeah, so that does affect the way that teams need to think about this and what opportunities are there. I was kind of thinking through the possibilities, and I don't know that anybody would give up track position anyway to get tires. What I will say is this completely resets a lot of those battles, right? We were talking about a 10-second lead for Aiken. That is gone. Garcia at Hawksworth. I mean, Hawksworth's going to be right there. You know, Katzberg's going to be on the prowl as well on this restart. Look, I think this could be some of the chaos that we predicted. We've had to wait a little while to get there, but this is shaping up to be some fireworks here in the run to the checkered flag.
That was me just thinking I might be able to take a breath. Also, Lawrence Vantor has the rear spoiler on his number 6 Porsche Penske Motorsport 963 at a very jaunty angle. We're looking at more sprint car than Le Mans prototype here. Wow. It's down a lot on the right-hand side, and he's got debris out the back. Well, I think we know whose piece of bodywork is there at turn 3 now, Ryan, because there's various bits of the under tray on the back of that number 6, which is the car with the white stripes, the white pin stripes, and with that rear end leaning at a weird angle, it's being kicked up on the left rear. I think we know whose carbon fibre is on the track.
We do, and it didn't take long. I was going to say, I think this has all the makings of a mechanical black flag, and that's now been issued by race control. That effectively means they've seen something on a car that they think is unsafe and that needs to be dealt with. So that's been issued to the 6 car, Lawrence Vanthor. That car's been in the wars, hasn't it, John? I mean, this started yesterday, and it's been an odyssey that I'm afraid isn't going to have a particularly happy ending. This drops them completely out of contention. They'll need to get that damage rectified, and I'm not sure that he would have had a whole lot to fight with anyway, even if they hadn't had that mechanical black flag, just as wounded as that car appears to be.
Far be it from me to second guess Porsche Penske Motorsport, but Vantor missed the opportunity there to go into the pit lane to serve that mechanical black flag, change the rear deck and come back out, and then get the class split. He's missed that. So now if he comes in, he will lose all of the ground, sitting in 4th at the moment, but he'll have to give that up. He would have dropped down, I'm just trying to see, he would have dropped down to 10th, but at least he would have still been on the lead lap. Now, are they going to argue that? I don't know. Still under yellow.
Let's go back to
15 and a half minutes to go.
Sorry, John. Let's go back to the beginning of the race. You remember, similar thing happened to the 60 car. They did serve the mechanical black flag. We were also under the short yellow rules, which means the pits weren't open, and then they had to come back in after the the race restarted. So I think it's 6 one way, half a dozen the other here for the 6 car. They're waiting until the pits are open. They'll serve the black flag. Maybe, I'm trying to think, maybe it would have helped them somewhat if they had done this here, but the end result is the same. They're going to be well down the order and out of any chance to fight for a representative result today.
BDO Nose Strategy Award. Well, in they come, under the yellow. Under the yellow. It's my understanding that with a mechanical black flag, you have to come in at the next possible time past the pits. They are replacing the whole of the deck. I presume that is classed as emergency service, so they will have to come in again. The very light blue eyes of Lawrence Vantoor on loan from Porsche to McLaren. He was at McLaren testing at Monza earlier on this week. They completed 3 hours of what they were hoping to be a 4-hour test in their new hypercar. He's down and away and rolls again. Does that mean he will have to come back in again when we go green? I presume it will, right?
Yeah, again, that's what happened to the 60 earlier, and I was curious about that too, given the fact that you are mandated to come in with that mechanical black flag, even if the pits are closed, and I was unsure how that would be viewed. But if we're going to use the precedent from earlier in the race, which again is, I'm sure, it's just a scenario I hadn't really thought through before, but I'm sure this is the way that race control would like it to play out. But my impression is that yes, they will have to come back in. It has been noted on our race control messaging service that they did enter a closed pit, and so that tends to be the end result there. If you do that, take service, then you have to come back in again.
Well, having called this as a short yellow, the pits have now opened for all cars.
Because we're about to restart, so that's normal here.
We're going back
sequence is going.
Yeah. So why didn't they just wait at Penske to do that? I think they're going to have a word with IMSA there. They were told it was a short yellow. Then they've been told they've got to come in. Now the pits are back open again. They could have waited for one more time and not had to come in again. It might ultimately not have helped them at all. Nice job, by the way, by Lauren Heinrich, who stays over to driver's left as he's laps down now. Jack Aitken pulls away. Good restart. BMW on Cadillac at turn 3, goes long. Dries Vantoor tries to get around, runs long, doesn't quite get it done, and back through goes Ricky Taylor with the old over and under routine.
Well, and that car is going to have to serve a drive-through. That was just handed down a moment ago. The 24 has to do a drive-through. That's for incident responsibility with the 6. So maybe that's where that damage that we've been noting that led to the mechanical black flag came from.
See, I look at that, and I'll come back to my thought in a moment. As we've got Nick Tandy in the wall. Nick Tandy at turn 5, I think that is, coming down to the bottom of Atwater Street and onto the waterfront. That will be a full course yellow. I'm going to say that Porsche are going to be a bit aggrieved there. They get hit by somebody else who gets penalised for it. They get told to come in and rectify the damage that someone else caused, which costs them their top 5 position. Then they've got to come back in again because they're told to come into a closed pit, and the person who caused the damage gets a drive-through and still ends up ahead of them. I'm not sure that I'd be overly happy about that.
Yeah, you're right. They will end up ahead. Yeah, that and the coincidence is that it's a couple of brothers there too. Boy, oh wow, this was at the front of the GTD Pro field on the restart. Boy, that was hip and shoulder there, right? That was Hawksworth on Garcia, or was that? I mean, it's still Garcia shown as leading. That was an interesting replay.
I think it was Hawksworth and Katzberg and Thielitz all getting together. The right front wing of Hawksworth's car up in the air and actually has cleared the fence. I think that's cleared the fence there. Now, that's not a public area, fortunately, as you come down the restart and finish line on Franklin to driver's left. But there's no debris on the circuit. That has, maybe there is actually, because we've got one of the Raptors, the F-150 Raptors out there, that's gone over the top. Hey, look, by the way, I am not having to go at race control at all about applying those penalties. They are applying the regulations. What I'm saying is, if I'm Porsche and I've been driven into, I'm a bit miffed, to use an English saying, about the fact that I've got to stop twice and the person who's caused me to stop twice only has to have a drive-through, which they've done mostly under yellow, and therefore is still ahead of me on the roads. It's Trace and Lawrence Vanthoor, by the way, as you rightly say.
And mostly under yellow, and also it's such a short drive-through here. I was thinking about this analogy earlier. A drive-through here is kind of like minimum security prison, whereas a drive-through at Long Beach is kind of getting thrown into solitary confinement. It's the same penalty. You end up in the same place, but the experience is significantly different one place to the other.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I say, don't phone, don't write, don't send a postcard. I am not at all criticising race control. They are applying the rules as they are written. And that is all that they can do. That is the consistency that the teams and we as watchers demand. And just sometimes it doesn't quite work out in the way that the wronged party might expect. By the way, Alan Prosser, thank you. That right fender did not clear the fence, which is why the Raptor was down there at turn, just coming up to turn 1. There, Antonio Garcia has been asked to go back ahead of Jack Hawksworth to restart. So that's the number 3 Corvette ahead of the Vassar Sullivan Lexus after that argy-bargy going down to turn 1 on the restart last time around. We are down to 7.5 minutes here, Ryan, and I'm not putting my weekend's earnings, that $1 that I get paid, is staying in my pocket at the moment, because I'm not sure who wins any of these classes at the moment.
Yeah, nor is my 50 cents, for what it's worth. And we're about to get the restart here, so it's about to fire off with just under 7 minutes to go. It should be a restart this time around.
So here's how they'll restart. Cadillac number 31, Jack Aitken from BMW, and Philip Eng, the 25, Ricky Taylor, and Cadillac number 10. They've been quiet, but they have worked their way up into a podium position. Acura, Acura, 4th position. Acura, who have history here, ahead of the best of the Porsches, which is now, believe it or not, the number 7, and Julian Adlauer. Then it's Jordan Taylor for Wayne Taylor. 7th position, Acura, Tom Blomqvist in the number 60, Roman De Angelis and Aston Martin. As the leaders come round to a green flag in GTD Pro, it's Corvette, Lexus, BMW, Lamborghini. But the red-fronted wheeling car goes into turn 1 with a decent run. Jack Aitken times his restart perfectly and had half a second at the line, and he's almost nearly a second ahead. But I've got to tell you now, Julian Adlauer is the man most likely. He's right under the rear wing of the red, white and black number 93 Acura. He's getting the draft down Franklin towards turn 3. They're moving around behind the blue fronted number 10 of Ricky Taylor. Here comes the Porsche down the inside. The number 7 has to back out of it. There's no room through there, and that puts him under pressure now from Jordan Taylor. The GTD Pro Cars, Corvette, Acura, Corvette, Corvette Lexus, then Corvette Lexus again, and the BMW and Temerario right there as they drop down the hill to the right-hander, and then the left onto the front, onto the waterfront there. Pretty decent restart. Aiken already pulled out a bit of a gap, but the battle on the streets is with the street cars. Incident responsibility drive through for the second place Lexus. Vassar Sullivan, and a shake of the head from the driver, Jack Hortsworth. That is going to be really costly, Ryan, because everyone was lying astern after the safety car restart.
Right, with everyone bunched together, even the relatively short drive-through penalty here at Long Beach will cost them dearly. That makes it a Corvette 1-2 at the front of the field with another GM product leading in GTP. Wow. What a big weekend this could be for General Motors.
On the streets of Detroit, we are under 5 minutes to go. In the oh my goodness, a big send thrown by the number 64 of Dennis Olsen in the Ford. He looked at the inside of the light blue Lamborghini Temerario. That's Lamborghini's brand new GT3 contender. Didn't get through, backed out of it. Discretion, the better part of valor. In the literal shadow of what used to be the GM Global headquarters at the Renaissance Centre, they've moved up the river just a little bit now, but it is all going off. 3.5 minutes to go. Aiken has set sail. He's lit the afterburners on the Cadillac, and he's gone. 2.7 seconds to Philip Eng. It's going to be another good result for BMW, coming off their first win in the WEC a couple of weekends ago when they took a 1-2 at WRT's home circuit at Spa. This is good stuff for them, but for Corvette and for GM, oh, there's a hit! A move under braking by Nicky Katzberg. That'll be looked at as well. Antonio Garcia still leads. Katzberg got clipped by Aaron Tielitz. Tielitz will say that the Corvette moved, and I think he might have a case there as they were going into turn 3. 2.5 minutes to go, and this one's getting feisty.
That was a massive cloud, front to rear. Lexus into Corvette, and there's some tire smoke, some damage on the second place Corvette. That's the championship leading car, which John was hit, or at least was contacted by. I'm not assessing blame here, but the 15 from Vassar Sullivan, which is a one-off. They are not in the championship fight, and yet could have a big part to play if that 4 car can't make it home.
Oh. Massive dive again from Dennis Olsen. He's just gone past Connor De Filippi, takes a position. And the car for the championship leader, incident responsibility, drive through. There was a move under braking. That was Nicky Katzberg responding to the dive down the inside. You're not allowed to do that in American racing. That's blocking, and it's been called. And now Olsen is turned around by the BMW of Connor De Filippi after just taking that position. The fisticuffs, the boxing gloves have gone back on after last year. It's been pretty clean up to now. Corvette may still win, but the championship leader is going to drop way back down. It was the Temerario down the inside. Oh, it was the McLaren, excuse me. It was the McLaren, Max Esterston, who nailed the Dennis Olsen car and spun it around. Well, action at the last knockings of this race. Ryan Marine and John Hindhoff in the Ford Racing Global Broadcast Centre. It's not over yet in prototype either, as the number 60 Tom Blomqvist Acura is under challenge. First from the BMW, but in fact, actually, it was the Porsche of Lawrence Vateur who slipped through on his brother up into 8th position. But this now is the last lap. The white flag is out on what was the restart line. There's 1.7 miles to go, and Jack Aitken in the 31 Cadillac wheeling car is 5 seconds to the good. The Cadillac has had the pace. Everyone else fighting for the minors, Ryan. And in the GT category, who knows what's going to happen, because there's still penalties to be assessed there.
Yeah, it's been wild, definitely. I think it's pretty safe to say Garcia's got that class more or less in hand. Thielitz in second place, cleared of any wrongdoing. They issued the penalty for blocking to Katzberg, which I think was right, but Thielitz is dropping down the order here late in the going, and I'm not sure why.
And look at Andrea Caldarelli, Pfaff Motorsport, from just the other side of the Detroit River. The Canadian team are going to get a podium in the new Lamborghini Temerario. They're only 2 seconds away from Garcia, but at the front of the field, it'll be a win on the streets of Detroit under the Renaissance Center. The bow tie wins it for Cadillac, and Whelan, the 31, comes through with 6 seconds of an advantage over BMW, and Wayne Taylor in third. Acura, previously the absolute doyen of this race, down in 4th position. Then it's Porsche. What a comeback for the number 7 Porsche as well. In GT, a bent, battered and running Corvette for Tonio Garcia in the number 3 car, with the right-hand door mirror wagging itself as they go across the line. They take the win by 2 seconds from Lamborghini and Pfaff Motorsport. Chris Meese for Ford is on the podium. That's their 51st podium in that new Ford Mustang GT3. The race to the line at the end. Jack Hawksworth nips by Nicky Katzberg, with penalties for Max Esterson at the end, and also for for the number 4 car of Nicky Katzberg. Did Katzberg serve that penalty? Yes, he did. So he's come back to 7th position. Oh my goodness. Very quickly, BDO no strategy. In GTP, Ryan, I think you've got to give it to Porsche Penske Motorsport, either the 6th or the 7th. They didn't get the results they might have wanted, but they played the long game, and their results ultimately were out of their control.
I agree, it was all for naught, but I do think they utilized strategy as well as anybody, if not better, to get track position in the race today, when a lot of it was more about survival, but they were able to think their way up a couple of positions. Ultimately, they gave them back with some miscues late in the going, but I don't think that takes away from the clever strategy that they employed.
And you've got to say that 2nd place for Pfaff Motorsports, bright blue Lamborghini Temerario, Andrea Caldarelli. Whether it was strategy, whether it was just smart driving, or a bit of both, I'm not sure. Pick between that and Ford Racing's number 65. I'm not sure. I think you've got to give it to Pfaff for 2nd place.
I agree. They've been nowhere all weekend. I mean, they were way off the pace in several of the practice sessions. They started at the very back of the class. They started in 10th place in GTD Pro to come all the way up to 2nd place. That is a story of perseverance, and all the credit in the world to that excellent Pfaff team.
I'll let you do a little bit of arithmetic, Ryan. Post-race time penalty coming in. It's not over yet. And That was for Aaron Telitz. He ran the red light at the end of pit lane, so that'll be a stop in 60. That's going to drop that number 15 car way down. That's not the full season car. In fairness, I'm just checking to see if there's anything else that's come through. No, there's not. So right now, unofficially and subject to post-race technical inspection, it's Cadillac number 31 for Whelan that beats BMW, Team WRT number 25, and Cadillac Wayne Taylor number 10. That is your podium on the streets of Detroit in GTP. In GTD Pro, Chevrolet Corvette win on home ground from Lamborghini and Ford. Pfaff Motorsport and Ford Racing with their number 9 and 65 cars are on the podium. My goodness me, what a last few laps, what a finish to the race. Not quite what we saw with the 2.5 miles of Indianapolis for IndyCar last weekend, but it was right up there, and some tremendous driving by the pilots who were in the cars at the end. You've got to give it to Cadillac Whelan. They had the pace all weekend. And Earl Bamber, who started and handed over to Jack Aiken, those guys are going to Le Mans for the test next weekend. We'll have that for you live on RS1. Then it's Eng and Wittmann in second, Ricky Taylor and Philippe Albuquerque in third. Acura, well, they've won here in the past. Fourth is the best for the 93 car. But what a finish for Porsche Penske Motorsport and the number 7, Julian Andler and Felipe Nasser. Nowhere after their travails in practice and qualifying. They lost fast laps, in fact. They'll turn in with the 5th place points ahead of Cadillac number 40 for Wayne Taylor Racing. The 60 Acura Meyer-Shank Racing with Kirk Agajanian in 7th. And the top 10 made up by the number 6 Porsche, the 24 BMW and the Aston Martin Heart of Racing team. The JDC Miller car finishing in 11th, which probably well, I'm going to let you do the numbers, but I think that takes Lauren Heinrich out of the championship lead, yes. Ryan, and therefore we might not see him at the 6 hours of the Glen in GTP. Corvette from Pfaff, from Ford, from BMW, from Ford, from Vassar, from Corvette, from McLaren, but it could have been any of those at the end. What does the arithmetic look like, Ryan?
Aiken leads by 144 points over Heinrich in GTP. GTD wow. Pro, though, it is so tight. The top 4 crews are separated by just 31 points. It's still Katzberg and Milner, but only by 18 over De Filippi and Verhagen.
Absolutely incredible stuff on the streets of Detroit. Michelin Post-Race Tech is next on RS2. Do not go anywhere. We'll have a little look at what we've seen, try and crunch the numbers a little bit further. For those of you trackside, thank you for turning out, and thanks to all of our technical staff trackside at Concord and in London. Whew, take a breath. We're going to do exactly that. RS2 on IMSARadio.com for Michelin Post-Race Tech with Ryan and me, John Hindhaugh. Stay tuned on RS2. Back next weekend for Michelin Pilot action from Mid-Ohio.